Everybody, Andy here again, down on the beach. A lovely autumnal day. It's actually quite chilly, but we're out in the sun, it's nice and warm. And I thought I'd wander down here, talk about one of those things that's come up recently, about the sort of social media, my experience with it. I did an interview with a friend of mine over there in America very recently, and I put a link down to the video underneath, and I may well have spoken about this before, and talking about my experience in social media and how it had led me on to other things. One of the reasons that I'm involved with the band that I am locally, apart from my musical experience, is also because of what I know and my experience with social media, Facebook and all those type of things. But another one of those opportunities has come along this week. An ex-work colleague, and I'm not going to go into details, has started up a particular forum which is work-based. Okay, I don't work there anymore. And one of those people that I've come in contact with through other people, etc. It's good to hook up with people like that, and I'll mention that again in a minute. But he's running this particular forum, and I got involved and sort of started adding posts on there, and then we've been exchanging emails and hooking up on Facebook and all that type of thing. And he wants me to get more involved. And one of the reasons, once again, is because of what I know and my experience of social media. And I'm still amazed by going onto social media and big places like Facebook, and even looking on that forum and seeing the sort of the naivety of certain people that are down it, or what you could class as maybe the inexperience or whatever of how people use these type of things, whether it be what is supposedly a private forum, but if you're using your real name on a private forum, you never know who's going to turn up on there at some time. It's not very easy to regulate these type of things. People can use false names. Our email addresses might not reflect who we actually are. Things like that. People don't tend to think about this. And once again, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, half of my age, and talking about this, and I was pointing out certain things, as I've done to the guy who runs the forum. I think, oh, well, yeah, I never thought about that, or, I never thought about it in that way, never realised the implications of doing this or doing that. And because of hooking up with this particular guy that I used to work with, I've now started getting friend requests from people that I used to work with on Facebook, which is really nice actually, and in that respect it's really good, because one of those things that I've never done, and I actually tweeted about this the other day, is that although I've been on places like YouTube and Twitter and Blogger and Facebook, etc. for a number of years, obviously some more longer than others, especially on Facebook, I've never actually sought people out. I've very rarely, I could probably count on both of my hands the amount of actual friend requests that I've actually sent out myself. I tend to let people find me. I'm not really sure why that is. I suppose maybe there's a fear of rejection in there somewhere. But one thing I did from day one was that I never allowed work to get involved with my sort of social media activities. That was partly as a defence mechanism, obviously, because of what I was putting out there. Although I wasn't talking about work, I wasn't talking about work-related things, or if I was, it was in a roundabout way. There's a certain thing, do I really want people to see that type of thing? Obviously, now that I'm outside of work, I don't care. But I've still not actually actively sought out people. And I've started to get, by hooking up with these other people, started to get friend requests from people that I worked with recently. And as is quite nice, they are, as I put in the tweet, they are the people that maybe I'd like to hear from, the people actually thinking about it, people that I actually used to manage, which I think is quite a nice thing in its own way. And I'm glad to hook up with them. But as I pointed out in a tweet, there will come a time possibly when I'll start getting requests from people that I'm not maybe quite so sure about. And that's another thing, isn't it? Who you share your information with. And a very important point, because when I was involved with work on the railway, quite happy to admit that now, I always had this thing where I never got involved with people at work. As I said, I never sent out friend requests, but even if I was to get them, and I made it plain to other managers, etc., that I worked with, that if you send me a friend request, I'm going to ignore it, because I don't particularly want to mix up what I do at work and what I do outside of work. It's another world. I'm a different person out there, and people see a completely different side to me on YouTube, on Facebook or whatever, especially if they've known me in a previous life, shall we say. They see a completely different side to me, and that's the real me. That's what someone said to me the other day. Oh, I see you doing all these things. And I said, no, that's me. That's what I've always been like, but you have to hide these things sometimes, or scale them down a little bit when you're outside. But other people don't necessarily do that, and they get involved with people at work. As I said, I never used to get involved with anybody at work. And it used to amaze me, and I actually pointed this out to people because I used to be a manager, that managers were actually friends with the people that they were managing, or the members of staff allowed themselves to become friends with their managers on things like Facebook. And I find that absolutely unbelievable, because I would never ever do that, because you never know what's going to come in the future. There comes that naivety, that inexperience, or something like that. I'm on Facebook, my kids are on Facebook, and my kids have said, well, so you can friend me on Facebook if you want to. And I said, there's no way that I'm ever going to do that, for your sake and for my sake, because it works both ways. Do you really want to be friends with your manager at work? If you want to, I'm not saying you shouldn't be, but I just see, be careful about it. You never know what someone's going to put up there, what you might put up there, or one of your friends might put a photo up there about you or whatever. You could compromise your position, as could the manager. I remember having a conversation with a particular manager who is friends, and probably still is, with lots of the people that they actually manage. And I said, do you really want to do that? Just think of that, what that could lead you to. Sort of favouritism, accusations of this or that. And if you add yourself as a friend to one person that you manage, surely you have to do it to everybody, because otherwise that equal opportunities, anything comes in, you can't be seen to favour one person over another. I know that doesn't bother some managers, but it certainly used to bother me. One thing I always stood by, I treated everybody exactly the same, whether I liked them or didn't like them. And other people just can't seem to do that. So be careful out there, because you never quite know, and the more you get involved with these things, the more you need to think about it, and the more you put out there, just be careful, because you are putting stuff out there that could potentially stay there forever and ever. And mixing work with pleasure can be a very, very dodgy thing to do. So just think about what you're doing. As I said, I've got 5 years of experience, and that's why people now ask me my own opinions, because I point out things that they would never think of. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else, but just use your experience and think about the implications of what you are doing, because one of these days, if you don't, it could turn around and bite you on the bum, as they say. Anyway, don't be paranoid. Obviously, that expression, so just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get me or something like that. So have fun out there, that's what it's for. But just be careful about what you do, and maybe be careful about who you hook up with. But thanks to those people who are hooking up with me, the ones I've accepted anyway. It is good to see you again. Anyway, thanks for your time. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.